Maya was only 12 years old when she found the strange key buried in her grandmother's garden, and that discovery would change her life forever. It was a warm summer afternoon, and Maya was helping her grandmother plant flowers in the backyard of the old house where her grandmother had lived for 50 years, a house full of secrets and mysteries that nobody in the family ever talked about. Maya loved spending her summers at her grandmother's house because it was so different from her small apartment in the city, and here she could run around freely, climb trees, and explore the woods behind the property. On this particular day, while Maya was digging a hole for a rose bush, her small shovel hit something hard and metallic, and when she brushed away the dirt, she saw a golden key that glowed strangely in the sunlight. "Grandma, look what I found!" Maya called out excitedly, holding up the key for her grandmother to see. Her grandmother turned around slowly, and when she saw what Maya was holding, her face went completely pale, and she dropped the watering can she had been carrying. "Where did you find that?" her grandmother asked in a whisper, her voice trembling with what seemed like fear or maybe excitement. Maya could not tell which one it was. Maya pointed to the hole she had been digging, and her grandmother walked over quickly, moving faster than Maya had ever seen her move before, even though she was 75 years old. "I never thought anyone would find it," her grandmother said quietly, taking the key from Maya's hands and examining it carefully, turning it over and over as if she was seeing an old friend after many years. "What is it?" "Grandma?" Maya asked, her curiosity growing stronger with every passing second, because she had never seen her grandmother act this way before. Her grandmother looked around the garden as if checking to make sure nobody else was watching, and then she bent down close to Maya and whispered in her ear. "This key opens a door that has been locked for 40 years, a door that leads to a place that most people do not believe exists, and I was the last person to walk through it." Maya's eyes grew wide with wonder, and she felt her heart beating faster in her chest, because this sounded like the beginning of an adventure, just like in the books she loved to read. "Can you show me the door?" Maya asked eagerly, bouncing on her feet with excitement. Her grandmother hesitated for a long moment, looking at Maya with a mixture of love and worry in her eyes, and Maya could tell that she was trying to decide whether to share this secret or keep it hidden. "I suppose you are old enough now," her grandmother finally said with a small smile, "and perhaps it is time for someone young and brave to know the truth about our family." She took Maya's hand and led her into the house, walking past the living room and the kitchen, past the bathroom and the guest bedroom, until they reached a part of the house that Maya had never explored before. There was a long hallway that Maya had always thought led to a storage closet, but her grandmother stopped in front of a bookshelf at the end of the hallway and began pulling out certain books in a specific order. Maya watched in amazement as the bookshelf slowly swung open, revealing a hidden passage behind it, a narrow corridor that was dark and dusty and filled with cobwebs. "I have not opened this in 40 years, her grandmother said, her voice filled with memories, "not since the day I decided to lock the door and hide the key." They walked through the hidden passage together, Maya holding tightly to her grandmother's hand, because the darkness made her a little nervous, even though she was also very excited. At the end of the passage, there was a door unlike any door Maya had ever seen before, made of some kind of metal that shimmered with colors that seemed to move and dance like a rainbow. "This is the door," her grandmother said softly, "and beyond it lies a world that exists alongside our own. A world of magic and wonder, and also danger." Maya looked at the key in her grandmother's hand and then at the door, and she felt like her whole life had been leading up to this moment. "How did you find this door, Grandma?" Maya asked. Her grandmother smiled a sad smile and said, "My grandmother showed it to me when I was your age, just as her grandmother showed it to her. And now it is my turn to show you, because this secret has been passed down in our family for hundreds of years." Maya felt proud and scared at the same time. Proud that her grandmother trusted her with such an important secret, and scared because she did not know what was waiting on the other side of that magical door. "What is over there?" Maya asked, pointing at the shimmering door. "A kingdom called Luminera," her grandmother replied. "A place where people have magical powers, where animals can speak, and where the trees are as tall as mountains." Maya could barely believe what she was hearing, but something deep inside her told her that her grandmother was telling the truth, and she suddenly understood why she had always felt different from other children, why she had always dreamed of magical places and impossible adventures. "Can we go there?" Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. Her grandmother looked at the key in her hand and then at Maya, and after a long moment of silence, she nodded slowly. "We can," she said, "but first you must know that once you step through this door, your life will never be the same again, and you will have responsibilities that you cannot imagine." Maya thought about this carefully, and even though she was a little afraid, she knew that she could not turn away from this adventure, because it felt like her destiny. "I am ready," Maya said, standing up straight and trying to look brave. Her grandmother smiled proudly and put the golden key into the lock, and as she turned it, the door began to glow brighter and brighter until Maya had to shield her eyes from the light. And then the door slowly opened, and Maya saw something that would stay in her memory forever. Beyond the door was a world more beautiful than anything Maya had ever imagined in her wildest dreams. The sky was painted in shades of purple and gold, and 3 moons hung in the sky even though it seemed to be daytime, and Maya had to blink several times to make sure she was not dreaming. The grass beneath her feet was soft and silver, sparkling like it was covered in tiny diamonds. And the trees around her were exactly as her grandmother had described them, so tall that their tops disappeared into the clouds above. "Welcome to Luminara," her grandmother said with a smile, watching Maya's face as she took in all the wonders around her. Maya could not find words to speak because she was so amazed by everything she was seeing, and she just stood there with her mouth open, turning around in circles to look at this magical world. A small creature that looked like a rabbit but had wings like a butterfly hopped over to them and looked up at Maya with curious eyes. "Hello there," the creature said in a tiny voice. "You must be the new keeper, the one everyone has been waiting for." Maya jumped back in surprise because she had not expected the creature to speak, and she looked at her grandmother with wide eyes. "The animals here can talk," her grandmother explained with a chuckle, "just like I told you, and you will get used to it after a while." The winged rabbit introduced itself as Pip and said that it had been waiting at the door for 40 years, ever since Maya's grandmother had left, hoping that someone from the family would return. "We need your help," Pip said urgently, looking up at Maya with worried eyes. "Because dark things have been happening in our kingdom since the keeper left, and everything is getting worse." Maya did not understand what Pip was talking about, but she could hear the fear in the little creature's voice, and she wanted to help. "What kind of dark things?" Maya asked. Before Pip could answer, the ground beneath their feet began to shake, and Maya grabbed onto her grandmother's arm to keep from falling over. In the distance, Maya could see a dark cloud moving toward them, but it was not a normal cloud because it was moving against the wind, and there was something evil about it. "We must move quickly," Pip said, spreading its butterfly wings and hovering in the air. "The shadow beasts are coming, and they can smell newcomers from miles away." Maya's grandmother took her hand and began running toward a cluster of giant mushrooms that glowed with soft blue light, and Pip flew ahead of them, leading the way. They reached the mushrooms just as the dark cloud got closer, and Maya could now see that the cloud was actually made up of hundreds of creatures that looked like shadows come to life, with glowing red eyes and long claws. "Inside, quickly!" Pip squeaked, pointing at a door in the largest mushroom that Maya had not noticed before. They rushed inside and slammed the door behind them, and Maya could hear the shadow beasts scratching and howling outside, but they could not get in. The inside of the mushroom was much bigger than Maya had expected, with comfortable chairs and a warm fireplace, and shelves full of books and strange objects. "We are safe here," Pip explained, "because the mushroom houses are protected by ancient magic that keeps the darkness out." Maya's grandmother sat down in one of the chairs, looking tired from all the running, and Maya suddenly remembered that her grandmother was not young anymore. "Are you okay, Grandma?" Maya asked with concern. "I am fine, dear," her grandmother replied with a tired smile. "But I am not as young as I used to be. And this world requires more energy than I have left." Pip brought them cups of warm liquid that tasted like honey and flowers, and as Maya drank it, she felt her strength returning. "Now you must tell me everything," Maya said to Pip, "because I want to understand what is happening and how I can help." Pip explained that Luminara had once been a peaceful and happy kingdom, ruled by a wise queen who kept the balance between light and darkness. But 40 years ago, something terrible had happened. "The queen disappeared," Pip said sadly. "And without her, the shadow beasts grew stronger and stronger, and now they control most of the kingdom." Maya looked at her grandmother and asked, "Did you know the queen, Grandma?" Her grandmother nodded slowly and said, "The queen was my dear friend, and I tried to help her when the trouble started. But I failed, and that is why I locked the door and hid the key." Tears formed in her grandmother's eyes, and Maya had never seen her grandmother cry before, so she knew that whatever had happened must have been very painful. "What happened to the queen?" Maya asked gently. "She was captured by someone she trusted," her grandmother said quietly. "Someone who wanted her power for himself. A sorcerer named Mordecai who had pretended to be her friend." Pip nodded and added, "Mordecai now lives in the dark castle at the edge of the kingdom, and everyone believes the queen is still trapped there, but no one is strong enough to rescue her." Maya felt something burning inside her chest, a feeling of determination and courage that she had never felt before, and she knew what she had to do. "I will rescue the queen," Maya declared. Standing up straight and clenching her fists, her grandmother looked at her with both pride and worry, and Pip's little mouth fell open in surprise. "But you are just a child," Pip said, "and Mordecai is the most powerful sorcerer in all of Luminara." Maya knew that Pip was right, and she knew that she was just a regular 12-year-old girl from the city who had never even been in a real fight, but something inside her was telling her that this was her purpose. "You said I was the keeper," Maya said to Pip. "So what does that mean exactly?" Pip exchanged a look with Maya's grandmother, and then the little creature began to explain. "The keepers are special people from your world who are connected to Luminara," Pip said, "and they have powers that no one else has, powers that grow stronger the more time they spend here." Maya's grandmother nodded and said, "Our family has been the keepers of the door for hundreds of years, and each keeper has special gifts that are different from the others." Maya looked at her hands, wondering what kind of powers she might have, and suddenly she noticed that her fingertips were glowing with a faint golden light. "It has already begun," her grandmother said with a knowing smile. "Your powers are waking up because you are finally where you belong." Maya watched in amazement as the golden light spread from her fingertips to her whole hands, and she felt warmth and energy flowing through her entire body. She did not know what adventures awaited her in this magical kingdom, but she was determined to be brave and to save the queen, no matter what dangers she might face. The shadow beasts continued to howl outside the mushroom house, but inside, Maya was preparing for the greatest adventure of her life. The next morning, the shadow beasts had finally gone away, and Maya stepped outside the mushroom house to begin her journey to rescue the queen. Her grandmother had decided to stay behind because she was too tired to make the long journey, but she gave Maya a beautiful necklace with a blue crystal that she said would protect her from dark magic. "This belonged to the queen," her grandmother said as she put the necklace around Maya's neck. "And I have kept it safe all these years, waiting for the right person to wear it." Maya hugged her grandmother tightly and promised that she would come back safely, and her grandmother wiped away tears and told her to be brave. Pip, the winged rabbit, would be Maya's guide on the journey, and the little creature seemed both excited and nervous about the adventure ahead. "The Dark Castle is 3 days away if we travel quickly," Pip explained as they walked through the silver grass, "and we will have to pass through the Whispering Forest and cross the Crystal River before we get there." Maya looked at the beautiful landscape around her and could not believe that such a magical place could be threatened by evil. But she could see signs of darkness everywhere, dead flowers and crumbling stones and shadows that seemed to move on their own. "How did Mordecai become so powerful?" Maya asked as they walked. Pip flew alongside Maya and said, "Mordecai was once a good sorcerer who worked for the queen, but he became jealous of her power and started practicing dark magic in secret." Maya listened carefully as Pip told her the whole story of how Mordecai had tricked the queen and captured her using a magical trap that she never saw coming. "The queen trusted everyone," Pip said sadly, "and that was her greatest weakness." They walked for hours through meadows full of strange and beautiful flowers, past streams that sang like music, and under trees that seemed to wave at them as they passed. Maya's golden light had faded from her hands, but she could still feel the power inside her, waiting to be used when she needed it. As the afternoon sun began to set, turning the purple sky into shades of orange and pink, they arrived at the edge of the Whispering Forest. The forest was dark and mysterious, with trees so close together that barely any light could get through, and Maya could hear strange sounds coming from inside, like voices whispering secrets. "Why is it called the Whispering Forest?" Maya asked, even though she was a little afraid of the answer. "Because the trees talk to each other," Pip said nervously, "and sometimes they talk to travelers, telling them things they do not want to hear." Maya took a deep breath and stepped into the forest, reminding herself that she had to be brave if she wanted to save the queen. The moment she entered the forest, the whispers became louder, and Maya could almost make out words, but not quite, like listening to a conversation from very far away. "Do not listen to them," Pip warned, "because the whispers can confuse your mind and make you forget where you are going." Maya tried to block out the whispers, but they seemed to get inside her head, telling her that she was not strong enough, that she would fail, that she should turn back and go home. "I will not listen," Maya said loudly, covering her ears with her hands and walking faster through the dark forest. The whispers became angry and started shouting at her, but Maya kept walking, focusing only on putting one foot in front of the other. Just when Maya thought she could not take it anymore, a bright light appeared ahead of them, and the whispers suddenly went quiet. They emerged from the trees into a clearing where a small cottage stood, surrounded by a garden full of glowing flowers that kept the darkness away. An old woman with kind eyes and silver hair was standing in the doorway, smiling at Maya as if she had been expecting her. "I knew you would come," the old woman said in a gentle voice, "because I have been watching you since you arrived in Luminara." Maya was confused because she did not know this woman, but Pip seemed very happy to see her. "This is Sage," Pip said excitedly. "She is one of the last good magic users in Luminara, and she has been hiding from Mordecai for many years." Sage invited them inside her cottage, which was warm and cozy and full of books and potions and magical objects that Maya could not identify. "You have great power inside you, young keeper," Sage said as she served them hot soup and fresh bread, "but you do not yet know how to use it." Maya looked at her hands and remembered the golden light she had seen before, and she wondered what else she could do. "Can you teach me?" Maya asked hopefully. Sage smiled and nodded, and for the rest of the evening, she taught Maya how to focus her energy and control the light inside her. Maya learned that her power came from her heart, from her love for her grandmother, and her desire to help others, and the stronger those feelings were, the stronger her light became. By the time the 3 moons rose high in the sky, Maya could make her whole body glow with golden light, and she could even create small balls of light that floated in the air. "You learn quickly," Sage said with approval. "But there is still much more you need to know before you face Mordecai." They decided to rest for the night and continue training in the morning, and Sage gave Maya a comfortable bed covered with soft blankets that seemed to hug her as she lay down. Maya fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the long day of walking and learning. But her dreams were full of strange visions. She saw the queen trapped in a dark tower, calling out for help, and she saw Mordecai laughing as darkness spread across the land, and she saw herself standing in front of a great battle, surrounded by creatures of light and shadow. When Maya woke up the next morning, she felt different somehow, stronger and more determined than ever before. Sage was already awake, preparing a special breakfast that she said would give Maya energy for the journey ahead. "You dreamed of the queen, did you not?" Sage asked, looking at Maya with knowing eyes. Maya nodded and described her dream, and Sage listened carefully, her face becoming more serious with every word. "The queen is calling out to you," Sage explained, "because she knows you are coming, and she is trying to help you find her." This made Maya feel braver, knowing that the queen believed in her even though they had never met. After breakfast, Sage gave Maya a small bag full of useful items, including healing potions, magic dust that could blind enemies, and a compass that would always point toward the dark castle. "Remember what I taught you," Sage said as Maya prepared to leave, "and trust in your heart, because that is where your true power lives." Maya thanked Sage for everything and promised to visit again after she had rescued the queen, and then she and Pip continued their journey toward the Crystal River. The adventure was getting more dangerous with every step, but Maya was no longer afraid because she knew that she had the power to make a difference. Maya and Pip walked through the beautiful but troubled land of Luminara, following the magic compass that pointed toward the dark castle where the queen was trapped. After several hours of walking, they heard a rushing sound in the distance, and Maya knew they were getting close to the Crystal River. "The Crystal River is very dangerous," Pip warned as they approached, "because the water is enchanted and will try to pull anyone who touches it down to the bottom." Maya looked worried because she did not know how they would cross such a dangerous river, but she trusted that they would find a way. When they finally reached the river, Maya gasped in amazement because the water was completely clear, like liquid glass, and she could see all the way to the bottom where colorful fish swam in circles. The river was very wide and there was no bridge in sight, and Maya wondered how anyone ever managed to cross. "Is there no bridge anywhere?" Maya asked, looking up and down the riverbank. Pip shook its little head sadly and said, "There used to be a bridge, but Mordecai destroyed it years ago to keep people from traveling easily through the kingdom." Maya sat down on a rock to think, and as she did, the blue crystal on her necklace began to glow softly. She looked down at the crystal and remembered that her grandmother had said it belonged to the queen, and she wondered if maybe it could help them somehow. As if answering her thoughts, the crystal grew brighter, and a beam of blue light shot out from it toward the river. Maya jumped up in surprise and watched as the beam of light touched the water and began spreading across the surface, creating a path of solid light that reached all the way to the other side. "The necklace is creating a bridge for us!" Pip squeaked excitedly, flying in little circles above Maya's head. Maya stepped carefully onto the bridge of light, worried that it might not hold her weight, but it was as solid as any real bridge she had ever walked on. She walked across quickly, and Pip flew beside her. And they made it to the other side just as the light bridge began to fade away. "That was incredible," Maya said, touching the crystal gratefully. "I did not know it could do that." They continued their journey, and the landscape began to change as they got closer to the dark castle, with the colors becoming darker and the air becoming colder. The silver grass turned gray and then black, and the trees that had been so tall and beautiful before now looked twisted and sick, with no leaves and branches that reached out like grasping fingers. Maya felt afraid for the first time since leaving Sage's cottage, but she forced herself to keep going because the queen needed her help. As they walked through this dark land, they suddenly heard a sound that made them both freeze in their tracks, a low growling that seemed to come from all around them. "Shadow beasts," Pip whispered in terror. "They have found us." Maya looked around wildly and saw red eyes appearing in the darkness between the twisted trees, dozens of them, all staring at her with hunger. She remembered what Sage had taught her and tried to focus on her love for her grandmother and her desire to help the queen, and slowly her body began to glow with golden light. The shadow beasts hissed and backed away from the light, their red eyes narrowing with hatred, but they did not leave. "Your light is not strong enough yet," Pip said nervously. "There are too many of them." Maya knew Pip was right, and she looked around desperately for a way to escape. Then she remembered the magic dust that Sage had given her, and she quickly reached into her bag and pulled out a small pouch. "Close your eyes, Pip," Maya shouted, and then she threw the magic dust into the air. The dust exploded in a brilliant flash of white light, and the shadow beasts screamed in pain and ran away, unable to stand the brightness. Maya grabbed Pip and ran as fast as she could, not stopping until they had put a good distance between themselves and where the shadow beasts had been. They hid behind a large rock to catch their breath, and Maya's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might jump out of her chest. "That was too close," Pip said, still shaking with fear. "We must be more careful." Maya agreed, and they decided to travel more quietly and stay hidden as much as possible as they continued toward the dark castle. By the time the 3 moons rose again, they could see the dark castle in the distance. A massive structure of black stone that seemed to swallow all the light around it. Even from far away, Maya could feel the evil radiating from the castle, and she understood why everyone in Luminara was afraid of Mordecai. "We will rest here tonight," Pip said, pointing to a small cave nearby, "and tomorrow we will figure out how to get inside the castle." Maya was exhausted but could not sleep because she kept thinking about the queen trapped inside that terrible place, all alone for 40 years. She looked at the blue crystal on her necklace and whispered, "I am coming to save you. I promise." The crystal glowed softly in response, as if the queen could hear her. As Maya finally began to drift off to sleep, she had another vision of the queen, but this time the queen spoke to her directly. "You are brave." "Young keeper," the queen said in a voice that sounded like music, "and I believe in you. But you must be careful, because Mordecai knows you are coming." Maya tried to ask the queen how she should get into the castle, but before she could speak, the vision faded away. She woke up suddenly, breathing hard, and found that it was already morning and Pip was looking at her with concerned eyes. "You were talking in your sleep," Pip said, "and you kept saying the queen's name." Maya told Pip about her vision, and the little creature looked even more worried than before. "If Mordecai knows we are coming, he will be ready for us," Pip said grimly. But Maya was not going to give up now. Not when she was so close to rescuing the queen and saving Luminara. She stood up and looked toward the dark castle with determination in her eyes, ready to face whatever challenges awaited her. "Let us go," Maya said bravely, because today we are going to end Mordecai's reign of terror once and for all." Pip took a deep breath and nodded, and together they began the final part of their journey toward the Dark Castle, not knowing if they would survive the battle ahead. But Maya was not thinking about failure because she was too busy thinking about all the people counting on her, her grandmother, Pip, Sage, and the Queen herself. She would not let them down, no matter what happened. Maya stood at the gates of the Dark Castle, her heart beating fast, but her mind clear and focused on the task ahead. The castle was even more terrifying up close, with walls that seemed to be made of shadows and windows that looked like empty eyes staring down at her. "There is a secret entrance around the back," Pip whispered, "that Mordecai does not know about because the original builders of the castle made it as an escape route." Maya followed Pip around the castle, staying close to the walls and hiding whenever she heard footsteps or saw movement. They found the secret entrance behind a pile of dead bushes, a small door that was barely big enough for Maya to squeeze through. Inside, the castle was cold and dark, with long hallways that seemed to go on forever and rooms filled with strange and scary objects. Maya could feel the presence of dark magic everywhere, pressing against her skin like icy fingers, but the blue crystal on her necklace kept her safe. "The Queen is at the top of the tallest tower," Pip said, pointing upward. "But we have to pass through Mordecai's throne room to get there." They climbed staircase after staircase, hiding behind pillars and in dark corners whenever guards passed by, and finally they reached the door to the throne room. Maya took a deep breath and pushed open the door, and what she saw inside made her gasp. Mordecai was sitting on a throne made of black crystal, and he was exactly as scary as Maya had imagined, with pale skin, dark eyes, and a smile that made her blood run cold. "Ah, the young keeper has finally arrived," Mordecai said in a voice that sounded like poisonous honey. "I have been expecting you." Maya stood tall and tried not to show her fear, remembering that her power came from her heart and that she needed to stay brave. "I am here to rescue the Queen and stop your evil," Maya said loudly, her voice echoing through the dark throne room. Mordecai laughed, and the sound was so cold and cruel that it made Maya shiver. "You are just a child," Mordecai said mockingly, "and you think you can defeat me, the most powerful sorcerer in all of Luminara?" He raised his hand and shot a bolt of black lightning at Maya, but she held up her hands and created a shield of golden light that blocked the attack. Mordecai's eyes widened in surprise because he had not expected her to be so powerful, but then his face twisted with anger. "Interesting," he hissed, "but your light is no match for my darkness." He attacked again, and Maya blocked each attack, but she could feel herself getting tired while Mordecai seemed to have endless energy. "You cannot win," Mordecai taunted, "because darkness will always defeat light in the end." But then Maya remembered what Sage had taught her, that her power came from her heart and from love, and she thought about all the people she cared about. She thought about her grandmother's warm hugs, about Pip's loyal friendship, about Sage's kind teaching, and about the Queen who had been trapped alone for so many years. Her golden light grew stronger and brighter, filling the entire throne room with warmth and pushing back the darkness. Mordecai screamed and covered his eyes because the light was too bright for him to look at. "No! This is impossible!" he shouted, trying to fight back with his dark magic, but Maya's light was stronger than anything he could throw at her. Maya walked toward him, glowing like a small sun, and when she reached the throne, she placed her hand on his chest and let all her light pour into him. Mordecai screamed one last time, and then the darkness inside him began to break apart, crumbling into dust and floating away like smoke. When the light faded, Mordecai was lying on the ground, no longer powerful or scary, just a weak old man who had made terrible choices. "Please have mercy," he begged, looking up at Maya with fear in his eyes. Maya looked at him and felt something unexpected in her heart, not anger or hatred, but sadness for someone who had chosen such a lonely and evil path. "You will be taken to the Queen for judgment," Maya said firmly, "and she will decide what happens to you." She left Mordecai under the watch of Pip and ran up the stairs to the tallest tower, where she found the door to the Queen's prison. The door was locked with powerful magic, but the blue crystal on Maya's necklace glowed brightly and broke the lock with ease. Maya pushed open the door and saw a beautiful woman with long silver hair and kind eyes standing by a window and looking out at the kingdom she had not seen in 40 years. "You came," the Queen said with tears in her eyes. "I always knew someone would come, but I never imagined it would be someone so young and brave." Maya bowed respectfully because she was not sure how to act in front of a queen, but the Queen walked over and hugged her tightly. "Thank you," the Queen whispered, "for giving me back my kingdom and my hope." Together they walked back down to the throne room where Pip was still guarding Mordecai, and the Queen looked at her former friend with deep sadness. "You betrayed me," the Queen said quietly. "But I do not wish to be cruel like you were, so you will be banished to a place where you can do no more harm." She waved her hand, and Mordecai disappeared in a flash of light, sent to a faraway island where he would live alone for the rest of his days. News of the Queen's rescue spread quickly through Luminara, and soon people from all over the kingdom came to the castle to celebrate. Maya's grandmother arrived with Sage, and Maya ran to hug her grandmother, so happy to see her again. "I am so proud of you," her grandmother said with tears of joy. "You did what I was never brave enough to do." The Queen announced that Maya was a hero of Luminara and would always be welcome in the kingdom, and a great feast was held in her honor. As Maya looked around at all the happy faces, at the kingdom that was already beginning to heal from the darkness, she knew that this was just the beginning of her adventures. She would return to her own world to go to school and live her normal life. But she would also come back to Luminara whenever she was needed, because she was the keeper, and that was her responsibility and her privilege. The hidden door between the worlds would always be there, waiting for her, and Maya knew that she would have many more adventures in this magical kingdom. But for now, she was just happy to have saved the Queen, made wonderful new friends, and discovered the amazing power that had been inside her all along. And as the 3 moons rose over the celebrating kingdom, Maya smiled and thought about how a golden key buried in a garden had changed her life forever.